with all the talks about kissing scenes and sex scenes in Desire the series, or rather the lack thereof, I figured let's talk about what we think about kissing scenes and NC scenes in BL in general. Because with the prevalence of Japanese BL in the market lately, I have seen a few posts about not necessarily complaints but feedback about the lackluster kissing scenes in Japanese BLs. And as someone who watches a lot of Japanese series, I can tell you it's not a BL issue, but mostly Japanese series just have a very tame kissing and bed scene in general, if they even include bed scenes. Which is, I know, pretty ironic given that Japanese adult videos are very popular. But every now and then you will find very explicit Japanese BLs. It just depends on what part of the internet you frequent. That aside, I always think that if the actor cannot commit to a proper kissing scene or sex scene, just don't do it. A lot of shows can survive narratively without kissing scenes, like the Kara no Vidro, for example. They don't need one, and the story will be fine. It will be able to stand on its own. My Love Mix Up Japan survived without having a kissing scene. My Love Mix Up Thailand would have been fine without one. Same with My School President. Even if we did get one kiss at the end of the show, we really don't need it. It would have been fine. Who would complain? And if you're going to complain, my question is why would you need to see high school student kissing on screen? If you've been around since the early days of BL, I'm talking about 2016 through maybe 2020, 2021, you probably remember just how rare on screen kissing used to be. Back then, the standard was not that high. So when a show actually gave you a kiss, no matter how awkward, fans go absolutely batshit crazy over it. That's partly probably why Addicted Heroin, the original, just to be clear, is so popular, or even the first history episode in the history franchise. They blew up because they are dared to show what everyone else has been skirting around. Meanwhile, you had Sotos at that time in Thailand that's barely above romance, if we're being fair, or all of those Chinese romances with queer coded relationships hiding under the guise of platonic soulmates. Of course, we know Japan had been in the game for much longer with a lot of BL and Yaoi animated adaptation, but we're not including their animated stuff. With BL, I think Takumi Kun came out in 2007, which is practically prehistoric at this point. But if you've ever watched some of these shows, there will be a lot of head patting. If you did get a kiss, it will be so awkward. And we don't really get bed scenes at all. The thing is, those limitations shape the way fans consume BL. For a whole generation of viewers, we were conditioned to treat crumbs as feasts. We celebrated the small gestures because that's all we got. So when explicit kissing scenes and bed scenes finally started becoming more common, especially in Thai BLs around 2019 with Tarn Type from Mew and Golf, and then together with me from Max and Tool, the audience lost its ever loving mind. It felt so revolutionary at the time, but looking back, it's also what kicked off this obsession with measuring BLs by how much physical intimacy we see on screen. Like I said, it's if it's not going to push the narrative forward, don't do it. Spare me the fake out half ass kissing scenes. Spare me the forehead tilt and the camera pan away. If it's not going to mean anything, just don't do it. Don't get me wrong, I love a beautifully staged, aesthetically pleasing fan service moment when it knows what it is. Something like Battle of the Writers. They pulled that off so well. They fucking gave us a show. That's a well served fan service if I ever see one. But if the story itself isn't asking for it, if the characters aren't in a place where intimacy feels earned or necessary, then just don't do it if it's going to be half assed. A lot of BLs would honestly be stronger without tacking on a last minute kiss just to show that there's a romantic payoff. Let the chemistry speak in other ways, like dialogues, the tension. Not every story has to climax, if you know what I mean. A good story does not need to have a kissing scene or a sex scenes, but honestly, a good story can be ruined by a bad kissing scene. I will not shut up about the fact that A Shoulder to Cry On does not have any kissing scenes, but it fucking nailed the intimacy of the main leads. It proves that you don't need a money shot kiss to make the romance feel real if the writing and the acting are strong enough to carry it. While we have Just for Two's second couple who gave us a fake out kissing scene that was so pivotal in the progression of their story. I know these are idols and they have limitations, but respectfully, I don't care. They should have casted someone else for Duyun or maybe Juha if they are not prepared to kiss. That first kiss was the turning point of their story. What do you mean you're going to give me some fucking camera angle? You're going to give me a cop out? Seriously? This couple is already so fucking problematic and you're giving me this half-assed show. If you're not prepared to commit to the story you're cast in, then don't take the role. Or better yet, don't cast idols whose contracts won't even let them kiss when the script demands it. I wasn't asking for fan service, it was a narrative necessity. This kissing scene was the moment that shifted their dynamic. It's just so insulting. At least A Shoulder to Cry On made a clear choice that there's going to be no kissing scenes. But to be fair to them, they can make that choice because in the webtoon, the source material, Daeyeol and Taehyun are so awkward with physical intimacy. It kind of tracks with their characters. It's a choice of the series that I can get behind with. The lack of kissing scene doesn't feel like avoidance, but it feels like an extension of who these characters are. Compare that to Just for Two, where the fake out kiss wasn't a character choice, but it's just a stupid production choice. A committed kiss doesn't have to be passionate, it just needs to look natural and intentional, which is my main issue with a lot of GMM TV shows. Whether it's kissing scenes or NC scenes, it looks so performative and so formulaic that most of the time I just skip it. It's definitely better than this fish lips, close mouthed pressing of the lips, but not really that much. Too many BLs treat kisses like checkboxes. This leads to soulless repetition instead of a portrayal of meaningful intimacy. Obligatory skinship in episode 5, that big kissing moment in episode 8, that NC scene in episode 10, and after a while, it gets repetitive and hollow. You're not moved by the moment. You're just watching actors run through the same motions across multiple series. They don't add any value to the story anymore. This is one of my biggest gripe about the X Morning Singto and Chris much hype comeback show. We waited years for this. Finally, we're getting them in a mature setting, and they are finally not limited to one or two awkward peck on the lips in the whole series. But why is it so mid? It's giving I don't actually want to be doing this. It's giving this is a contractual obligation. It's giving let's get this over with so we can move on. And I'm rushing to the end of this 2 minute makeout scene. That's what it's giving. This is supposed to be the moment where they shed the limitations of their early roles and leaned into maturity. Fans were ready for them to elevate their brand of romance, to give us intimacy that feels natural. Instead, we got half hearted, rushed kisses that had no spark and no tension whatsoever. Performative kisses that look good, I guess, because they're going at it, sure, but it just feels so flat. GMM TV should honestly take notes from the Mundi because say what you will about their messy plots and their chaotic writing. One thing the Mundi consistently gets right is kissing scenes. They've figured out that sweet spot. Intimate without being stiff, sensual without tipping it into sleazy. And yes, whenever I say tacky and tasteless, I'm thinking me mind why. The Mundi seems to have cracked the code. The intimacy scenes feel natural and very explicit without crossing into gratuitous spectacle. They know how to use angle, spacing, and take advantage of the chemistry between the actors to sell the scene without making me want to cringe into the next life. Take Cutie Pie or Battle of the Writers as examples. Do I think either of those shows has strong plot? Absolutely not. Both are narrative disasters in their own special way. You can hate watch the storyline and still walk away thinking, well, at least the NC scenes look good. When I say good, I mean really good. Anyways, going back to the Desire series, I think the issue with the pacing and the very tame, almost lifeless intimate scenes isn't really the show itself, but more a symptom of the Chinese drama standard. See, dramas almost always operate on this hyper restrained wavelength where everything feels slowed down, muted, and overly controlled. It's like watching underwater, the movements drag, the emotions don't quite reach the surface, and the intimacy is barely, just barely there. That's not unique to Desire, it's just the way most Chinese dramas are structured. Even outside of BL, you'll find the same problem. Beautifully shot shows that somehow feel emotionally underacted, like the actors are delivering the scene, but without the weight and the urgency that makes you feel it. We got a little lucky, I think, with Revenge Love. The acting is livelier and the production team really leaned into the BL part of the story. And this is after all Chai Jidan who wrote Addicted Heroine, so go figure. She's going to give us that fan service one way or another. With Desire, it would have been fine if they follow the same standard of your usual C dramas, but we forgot one thing about the show, I think. The Omegaverse part of the show. This is supposed to include animalistic urges, so underacting that is going to fall so flat. Omegaverse isn't subtle. The whole foundation of the trope is animalistic urges, instinctual attraction, heat, rot, all that primal mess that throws logic and restraint out the window. You can't take a premise that is literally about biology overriding reason and then underact it like some mischievous boss secretary love story. That's how you end up with scenes that are contradictory to the lore of the show you're using. If you're going to do ABO, you need to lean into it. You don't have to make it vulgar or tasteless, but you need to reflect the raw intensity the trope demands. That's why a lot of Omegaverse manhwas or webtoons are so popular. They go all in on the push and pull of control versus instinct. Without that intensity, it just feels like watered down romance with fantasy and sci fi thrown into the mix. There's just no emotional impact, no desperation, just the most lukewarm kissing scenes possible. It just doesn't hit the mark. It undermines the very trope it's trying to go for. I was a bit disappointed. The scenes in episode 9 was supposed to be the emotional turning point of the show. We're like more than halfway through. The whole plot of the show is unraveling, so we can start stacking up for the ending, for the resolution. It was just such a letdown. It's frustrating because this is when the show needed to hit hardest. This part, let's call it sexual confrontation, this wasn't just a random steamy scene. This is the point where the genre shows its teeth quite literally. It's not just about lust or attraction, it's about raw, uncontrollable clash between instinct and willpower, about what it means to fight or to surrender to biology. We should have seen an alpha wrestling against himself, torn between the human mind that wants restraint and the primal urges that demand dominance. The pheromones, the tension, the inevitability of it all. This is where the story should have gone feral, where the audience finally feels that this universe operates by different rules. Instead, we got a half hearted kiss and a lot of awkward camera panning and then a fade to black. It completely sidesteps the stakes. The whole point of Omegaverse is that sex is not just sex, it's biology versus agency, dominance versus vulnerability. This scene should have been violent in its urgency, not in a gratuitous way, but in a way that shows the weight of instincts crashing over the characters, stripping away pretense and control. That's how you sell the audience on the fact that this is not regular BLNC scene. This rant is fucking tiring. I have a headache now. Well, tell me what you think down below. What's your favorite NC scenes in BL? Mine is hands down Cutie Pie. Tell me what's yours. Drink your water, stay hydrated. Bye bye.